Hopes that the US-China trade war may soon come to an end were dramatically dashed today, sending stock markets in China and in Asia plunging.
It all started after US President Donald Trump sent out tweets threatening to increase tariffs on Chinese goods at the end of the week.
The Shanghai Composite went down more than 5.5% on that. That's its worst day in more than 3 years. The Shenzhen Composite and the Hang Seng Index both ended the day in the red as well.
In fact, around 1,000 mainland firms tumbled by the maximum allowed 10% daily limit. The Chinese losses were the biggest in an Asia-wide sell-off triggered by Mr. Trump's tweets.
Markets here didn't fare well either, with Singapore, from Singapore to Taipei. They're all closing lower today, a sea of red.
Mr. Trump's latest threats appear to be an attempt to pressure Chinese negotiators as both sides prepare to meet on Wednesday in Washington for another round of trade talks. And indeed, he's just tweeted again saying he will not lose to Beijing.
That's right. Now, all this appears to have caught markets by surprise, though. As recently as Friday, Mr. Trump was hailing progress made by both sides towards a truce in the trade war.
But on Sunday, he tweeted that he would raise import taxes on $200 billion of Chinese products from 10% to 25% at the end of this week. He also threatened to impose 25% tariffs on additional $325 billion worth of Chinese goods, essentially covering all products imported to the United States from China.
Mr. Trump complained that China was dragging its feet in the negotiations. For more, let's join our correspondent, Olivia Xiong, in Beijing. Olivia, good evening. There was earlier speculation that the Chinese team wouldn't go to Washington for these talks. What's been the response from Beijing?
Well, at a briefing earlier today, China's foreign ministry said that the Chinese team was still preparing to go ahead to Washington for trade talks. This is in spite of the threats that we've seen from US President Donald Trump to hike up tariff rates once again. And in spite of the earlier reports suggesting that China was reconsidering this trip as well. But this is not confirmation that things are still going ahead according to plan. And that's because there is a lot we still do not know. For example, the timeline. We do not know whether trade talks will continue as scheduled and whether they will begin as planned on Wednesday. The foreign ministry declined to answer that question directly. We also do not know whether China's top negotiator, Vice Premier Liu He, will be part of that negotiating team as well. We also do not know whether this delegation, which was said to be going to be a rather sizable one from China, is going to be downsized as a result of these latest developments. And this is despite foreign journalists trying to press the foreign ministry during that briefing for more details of these trade talks. But all the spokesperson from the foreign ministry would say is that China is hoping that the US would meet it halfway so that both sides would be able to come to a mutually beneficial agreement.
我想类似的情况以前已经多次出现过。 中方的立场和态度一直非常明确，美方对此也十分清楚。至于中美经贸磋商，大家都知道已经进行了10轮，取得了积极进展。
Well, Chinese media has also been very quiet and not reporting on President Trump's tweets for many hours after the news broke, and reports are suggesting that on social media as well, posts on Weibo and WeChat have also been taken down. But some users have taken to, talking about these developments a bit more creatively. Some have started comparing President Trump with Thanos. And yes, I'm talking about that villain from the Avengers series. Some say that while Thanos caused chaos in the world with a snap of his fingers, President Trump has caused chaos, sending the stock market in Asia tumbling with just a single tweet.
Olivia, so where then do both sides go from here with regards to their trade talks? What can we expect to happen next?
Well, the big question, I guess, on everyone's minds is will there be a trade deal between China and the U.S., that can end this ongoing trade war? Now, some analysts think that in spite of the developments that we have seen in these few days, that there will still be a deal that would go ahead, as this is still beneficial for both the U.S. and China, as well as Beijing seeks to stabilize the Chinese economy. But the big question is, what will the quality of the deal be like? Also, given President Trump's latest tweets, it shows how unpredictable the situation is. This is even though China has agreed to, buy more goods from the U.S. President Xi Jinping, in the latest Belt and Road Forum, has also talked about widening market access and addressing some of the issues that the U.S. has, raised with China. Analysts say there still points to, many difficult issues that have yet to be resolved, and one of them, as reports suggest, is this enforcement mechanism to ensure that China goes ahead and sticks to the commitments that it has made. Now, the U.S. reportedly wants to have tariffs remain in place to ensure Beijing fulfills its promises, but this has not, been received very well by China. So, while analysts still think that a deal will be struck, they also think that negotiations are still going to take quite a bit of time.
All right, many thanks for that update. Olivia Xiong speaking to us from Beijing.